Hello, I'm Liz, one of Derry's reference librarians, and welcome to another episode of Misinformation Busters. Once a week, we tackle a rumor or false or misunderstood information. We try to separate fact from fiction. This week, we're still talking about movies, American animation specifically, and one particular thing that keeps popping up, A113. So, what's the story? You've probably seen A113 at some point. It's featured in early episodes of The Simpsons, like Krusty Gets Busted. It's Krusty's prison number. If you've seen The Iron Giant, it's the license plate number of a car that the giant took a bite out of. On American Dad, it's also a license plate number. And if you've seen a Pixar movie, you've seen it. It's on license plates, doors, trains, computer screens. It's in every Pixar movie. But what is this? What does it mean? Most people who have noticed it have deduced that it is some kind of an Easter egg, which is a hidden item in a film, show, or video game usually meant to be a joke or a bonus. Others think there's a hidden meaning, and some even think there's a sinister meaning. QAnon followers have gotten wind of this, and they are convinced that it's a hidden message of adrenochrome, as it's supposedly the code for the molecular compound, or just a general message of support for the global satanic cabal. So, what are the facts? Well, good news, everyone. A113 is not the symbol of adrenochrome. First, the popular molecular compound would be C9H9NO3. Second, adrenochrome, at least as it's known in the QAnonsense world, isn't real. Synthetic versions do exist and they're used in relation to blood clotting, but the idea that it's being harvested from people and that it makes people immortal, nope. This was actually made up by Hunter S. Thompson for his book Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. And between this and people seeing something so sinister in a show like The Simpsons, I'm starting to worry that some people aren't best separating fiction from reality. Anyway, the reality is that A113 is little more than an in-joke / Easter egg for animators, specifically animators who went to the California Institute for the Arts, and more specifically, ones that went in the late 70s and onward. A lot of animators in America went to CalArts, including some of the biggest names in animation, past and present. We have Henry Selick, who made The Nightmare Before Christmas, and, fun fact, Tim Burton is also a CalArts alum. Brad Bird, who directed The Incredibles, The Iron Giant, and The Simpsons episode Krusty Gets Busted. Also, if you've not seen The Iron Giant, fix that, it's a masterpiece. There's also John Musker, who worked on my favorite Disney film, Aladdin, and animators like John Rampt and Dan Haskett, who worked on The Brave Little Toaster and went on to work for Toy Story. And then there's John Lasseter, who is a Disney Pixar juggernaut and pretty much the reason Hayao Miyazaki's films had distribution stateside in the early aughts. Unfortunately, Lasseter ended up leaving after being accused of harassment, which is just disappointing. I was rooting for you, John. Well, that sad factoid aside, these people went from students to people that reinvented American animation. There's a great Vanity Fair piece on CalArts and all the animators that came out of there and how they pretty much saved animation in the late 80s, early 90s. Especially Disney, which was in a rut after the death of Walt and spent much of the 1980s languishing and being bested by Don Bluth. Actually, little background on that. Don Bluth actually worked as an animator for Disney and staged a walkout mass quitting with his fellow animators. And he went on to make some of the best animated films of the 1980s. Secret of the Nim, American Tail, Land Before Time, All Dogs Go to Heaven. Just don't ask about the 90s. Anyway, back to CalArts. As Brad Bird said about the Disney Renaissance, quote, people think that it was the businessmen, the suits, who turned Disney animation around. But it was the new generation of animators, mostly from CalArts. They are the ones who saved Disney. But what is A113? What does that have to do with CalArts? Well, it's a classroom. Specifically, a classroom for character animation. And when you look at pictures of the door, it doesn't even look that impressive. This is from the Vanity Fair piece. Quote, room A113 was where many of the character animation classes took place. CalArts didn't give us the best rooms in the house, shall we say, recalls Nancy Beeman. We used to joke that it was like the Haunted Mansion. It had no windows and no door. You had buzzing fluorescent lights, and it was dead white inside. So to make the place less depressing, they put Xeroxes of Disney characters on the wall. But otherwise, it was a pretty dreadful place. But a lot of creativity and talent passed through that dreadful place, and those that have passed through that classroom use it as an in-joke, as a way to pay tribute to their school. It's a shout-out. For animation fans, A113 presents a fun game of spot the reference. Disney, Pixar, and just animation fans in general love seeing how and when it will be referenced in animated films and TV shows. There are actually sites and videos devoted to finding and listing these references. And who knows when A113 will show up in the future. Without a doubt, there's a talented person at CalArts right now who will keep this tradition alive. Thank you for watching, and as always, look for sources in the comments. And if you want to do some research, you can use our EBSCO databases available through the library's website. And I'll see you next week.